the session is for you. So even if you need to interrupt me or stop and ask questions, please do. We are going to have a little bit of a question and answer at the end, and what we're trying to do is really just go through a survey with you and see what you're doing currently, whether we've missed anything, whether we need to include something, or we haven't thought about something that is important to you. We'd love to hear. Okay, so everyone can see my screen now. I was going to start off with just encouraging ownership, but I wanted to maybe take some of the people through and try to give you some background in terms of where I find lots of people struggling, not sure how to make the right decision. And it's really this path over here. Now, Monica she was going to update my slides, but she's got a nice one on the picture of going up the mountain, but these are the fundamentals. So the idea is, how do we take you from entry to either going to the thought leader level or going to the manager or the executive? So which path is appropriate to you? And we do several assessments and questions to see where your strengths are and where we can help to be able to explain the journey up. Now, just a quick personal testimony. When I started out and I did my university, it was my second or third year where we did operating systems, and I just fell in love with writing operating systems and developing operating systems. Now, because I lived in South Africa, there were not many companies, there were 0 companies in South Africa that did operating systems. So my whole goal was to get as much experience as I could, and then to go and work for IBM. That was my goal in life. And I did get to IBM, but when I got to IBM, IBM actually pulled out of the country, and we renamed ourselves to ISM, and they stopped us from doing these internal transfers, which was happening prior to that. We were able to go and do some time in America, and that was my goal, but I never got there. And I think when I look back on it, I think I was fortunate that had happened to me, because when I started my own business, the thing I realized was that I really battled to communicate with executives. I would probably share too much detail. I'd be sharing details that they weren't interested in. I'd be giving them all sorts of technical information, and I made lots of mistakes. I share on my data governance course is, if you were to talk, let's say you were an executive and I had a problem in my building and I had a big hole in the wall, and I call the architect in and say, please, can you fix? And he starts telling me about the plumber and the electrician and the data quality person and stuff like that. After a while, I'm going to say, look, I'm not really interested. All I need you to do is fix this hole. And I feel our CEOs and our executives are a little bit like that, especially in the beginning, where if you start talking about metadata and data quality and document and content and things like that, if you try to take them through the DMBOK, it's not going to last long. And so you have to learn how to present the message that they want to hear in the way that makes sense to them. Some people want to hear like a 2-minute summary and then that's it. And then they want to ask questions. Other people want more detail. So how do I talk to these people? And I actually felt that had I gone through maybe working with some management consultant firm like KPMG, PwC, and it's good to see Wafa here. She's gone through the KPMG, and they really teach you how to engage and interact with executives. Now, I'm not saying that I did something wrong and I can't recover. All I'm saying is that I think I spent quite a bit of time dealing with stuff that I shouldn't have dealt with, and there was alternative ways of doing it. Okay, so now my direction is going towards the thought leader where I can help, I can influence people, I can help drive their programs, I can help encourage them, and we can help mentor and coach them. Okay, so I also have learned lately that I'm not a good employee. So I get very involved with things have to be done the way I need them to be done, and that's not always the way that it's good for the organization. So I can cause trouble in organizations. So I think I prefer the smaller companies, the more technically strong companies. That's my background, and that's where I want to go. So now, what I like to do is when we talk to you, I need to find out which way you want to go. Where is the path that I want to follow? Okay. Now, what happened to me in the beginning when we started it almost 6 years ago, when I was talking to especially the younger people, their focus was becoming the manager and the executive. Okay. And I remember that when I started out, that was important to me. I wanted to get to the top, and that was where I wanted to be. And then as we've grown and experienced and learned, it's a case of saying, I'm not sure whether I want to be at that level. I'm not sure whether that's what excites me, that's what gets me up in the morning. And that's where my skills are. So where are my skills? Where do they sit? And what we've been doing is we've constantly, and if you look at this QR code, there's a QR code there, and there's something called thinking styles. We also do it on the course, so you don't need to do it now if you want to join the course. But we've been doing thinking styles and strength finders and trying to work out what's the best path for you. And again, what I'd like to say is there is no wrong path. This is the path where you want to go, but we will then look to say, well, these are your challenges with that path, and you need to do a couple of things. One is maybe you need to do some more soft skill work on building relationships and things like that. Or what you need to be able to do is get somebody else that can help you build. Okay. And this is a very helpful insight when we all see where our skills are. And there was someone that challenged me some time back when Monica's got Blinkit. I think it is Monica. I can't remember what it is, but you can listen to very abbreviated versions of books. And one of the person challenged me is to say, this thing of trying to focus on building your weakest part in your body doesn't always work. Sometimes these days to excel, you've got to work on your strongest parts and then find people that will complement you. Find a way of fitting into the right position. And I must admit, that's something that I like. I can relate to, and it's certainly something that makes me happy. So this is the journey we take you on. We've got to find out what's your right direction. And sort of, are you going for management because it's a level of maybe it's a remuneration, or it's a level of power and things like that. So what's your reason for getting there? What is your reason for being there? And when I look at all your different strengths, is that something that complements the position you want to go to? Okay. But I do think it's important for all of us to start that thinking. Okay, I'd hate for you to get to a point where you realize, shucks, I've been going in the wrong direction. I should have made some better decisions earlier on in my career to get to the path that I need to get to. Now, the playbook that we put forward in this course that we do is we first of all assess your career situation. What has been, where are you, what knowledge have you acquired? Over the last 5 years, I've done 5 years of data quality or 4 years of data science, whatever it is. What have you acquired? And then look at what skills and competencies you need to get to that position that you want to get to. From there, we basically talk about, this is what we refer to as acquired. Acquired, this is what I've got. Okay, this to an extent is required. This is what I need. So if I want to be in this position, I've got to do this. And you'll find sometimes that you get put into a position, you volunteer for a position, and you've got a road to climb just to where you get to meet the point of being required. Sometimes we're very fortunate. People believe in us, they trust us, and they say, Howard, I want you to be a CDO in my company. And you get there and say, well, I don't even know how to do CDO. Fortunately, I know how to spell CDO, but that's about it. That's where I end. So how do I get to required? And what are the risks to the company for me being so far down? And if the risks are very high, then maybe we need to bring in a consultant that will help teach me, train me, progress me. And so this required tends to work with your manager. Now, if you're a manager, you should be doing this with all of your people and saying, okay, this is the position I have you in, and this is what we need to get you to where you need to get. Then the next one is what we call desired. What do you desire? Where is the area do you desire? Now, what I'm finding interesting is I'm talking to lots of people that are reaching retirement age, and now they're sitting back and saying, Max, what do I do now? Where do I go from here other than have a break for a while? But where would I like to go? Where would I like to focus on that maybe doesn't require me to go into the office all the time, to do all the travel? Where is my desire? Okay. And that's where you communicate your aspirations with management, with the organization, and then together they plan your learning and development roadmap. And we've had some real fantastic successes when we do this with academies that have graduates coming in. We go through the process of doing these assessments, and then we sit with the managers and say, okay, you've told me what we first do, Paul, I don't know if you remember that, we go to all the managers that are sending their graduates, and we say to them, what do you require of this graduate in the next 6 months? Okay. And then we tell them, you've got to get here, and we will make sure you get there. But then the desired is when you start communicating, saying, this is where I want to be. This is where I think I need to be. And then we monitor and evaluate your progress, and there's constant mentoring and coming back. And then we need to look at what else should you pay attention to. So that's the playbook that we take you through. And next week and the week after, we'll go through a few more details. But maybe if I can pause there for a while, everyone's very quiet. Are there any questions? Is there anything? And I'm sure this is very sensitive to you. This is your career. We want that ownership of your career. Is there anything that you'd like to understand or recognize about developing your career? It's a pity Andrea isn't here. The other day I was saying, a lot of times I don't get people asking me questions. And she said, yes, Howard, but they're too scared of you. And I said, no, that can't be right. Hopefully you're not too scared of me. I keep saying to my people in the class that there's only one bad question, and that's the one you didn't ask, because then you'll sit and think about it for months. And had you asked it, hopefully I may have been able to answer it, but okay, I think I'm rambling on a bit. Okay, so yes, Paul.
Let me try break the ice.
Save me.
Let me try break the ice. I mean, I'm also scared of you, but let me just. I'm far away, so I'm in Langebaan. You can't catch me. So
okay.
No, but just on that, I think it's a sensitive thing, and maybe that's why also some silence. But at the time when you were running ahead as you were, and sort of a dead focus on your objectives and that, was there somebody that you were talking to about next steps, way forward, what are the various paths and things like that, and maybe just to help unlock that? Because I think some of us, or a lot of people, don't have that, and we don't think to have that. We think, our conditioning through school or parents or whatever the thing is, sets you up and you go with it. Or the opposite, you just lost and you're running around trying to find it yourself, and you're doing various jobs trying to find the one that hits the sweet spot inside you, and you can spend a long time doing that, spinning.
So just to share with you, I was very fortunate. My dad was a professional engineer. It's almost from day one we were all going to university. None of us none of us, there was no option. And I remember my brother Stuart, he always manages to push my dad's buttons. And he said one day that he's going to become a train mechanic, to which my dad didn't respond very, very politely. So, but he set the bar, and there was no questioning. This is the way we were going to go. And I was very fortunate in grade 10, standard 8, they've introduced computer science as a 7th subject. And when I heard it, I knew this is where I was going to go. And I did really badly. For 2 years. I battled. I couldn't get it right. And I think I was getting around about 50% for my prelim mark. I wrote my final exams and I graduated with a distinction. So, but I felt that all the pennies dropped and I knew exactly where I was going to go.
Sure.
My mistake that I made was my dad he constantly repeated this. He said, get your technical stuff done first before you go into management. Okay, so I was into doing operating systems and programming. I wrote programs for years. And so I was hell bent on being the best technical software engineer that I could be. But most of my employment was in the data field. So I hardly did any programming other than SQL and BI. And then what happened was I started to see that sure, there's other ways of doing it. There's alternative ways, and I need to now readjust. When I started opening up my own company, it was how to be an entrepreneur, how to make money out of the skills, and how to generate revenue. So that was my path.
Thanks, Howard.
But I was very fortunate that I did have a man called Miles Sinclair. He passed away about 10 years ago, and he would constantly mentor me in terms of, Howard, are you thinking right? And he was one of those guys that told me, you're communicating very badly with executives. He was an executive. And that's where I could say that I didn't do a good job in those areas. So he shared it with me. And
yeah. So maybe just the key takeaway I see as a hand. I broke the ice. Awesome. But before you come, Kira, just a question. I mean, so you're obviously an advocate of having that person that you can just talk to and bounce ideas, and they can push your buttons, right?
Definitely. I feel that sort of, Miles and Claire did that for me, and Veronica and I constantly, sometimes when we battle with business, we said, shucks, we just wish Miles was here because he always has a different way of thinking that we never thought before. So you get this very narrow tunnel vision, and you're not seeing this, and you tunnel your way down here. And I know you and I have had these type of discussions. What I can see and what you see are very different, and it's helpful to have these open discussions. And we refer to them as angry walking sessions in Riyadh.
Yeah.
That's because it was 45 degrees and we had to walk as fast as possible. But yes, those are the sessions that you need with people. You and I need time to spend together to understand where our career is. And maybe, Kiro, you see your hands up. Can I help you?
Yeah. So I'm in master data management specifically, right. And I had somebody come to me today coincidentally. So she's very operational focused, and she actually said, I'm intrigued by the data space. I think I want to further my career in that direction, but I actually don't know where to go to even find, what's out there and the opportunities and the paths and career paths. And I actually realized, okay, I can give you some advice from a master data management and the different, engineering and analysis and data science routes. But I actually didn't know what advice to give to somebody who's completely, I wouldn't say starting off, because she also has master data experience, but I didn't know what advice to tell her on where to go to explore these options that may be available that might be of interest to her.
Okay, that's a great question. And what we have found, Hero, is first of all, we have to ask the question is data something, and why is it ask those deep questions of why do you think data is something? Are you running away from what you have, or is this something that you've started to see and see the value of it? And hopefully it's not, oh, ChatGPT is there, so I got to jump onto ChatGPT. But it's helpful to have those discussions. Now, what I found very helpful is taking people through the DMBOK. Now, lots of people can say, data modeling is very technical. And what I try to say to my people is, don't focus too much on having to understand all the details, but can you see the type of work that you're doing and the type of exposure that you have? And when we go through all those 16 chapters of the DMBOK, they can start, oh, maybe I like master data, or maybe metadata, or document and content, controlled vocabularies, things like that. And then you can start seeing, oh, okay, I sort of like these, and this is where I would like to. Now, how do I prepare myself to become a specialist in that section? Okay, so I'm going to go back one slide. So in this where we have this, sorry, back a slide, where we have this one over here, we want to take you from entry to professional. So now I want to be a certified data management professional, but I haven't specialized anywhere. I just have a fundamental understanding of all the areas of data. Kira, does that sort of help you? Then you can start choosing which way am I going to go. Do I want to specialize in reference and master data? Do I want to specialize in data quality? If I'm more statistical, where would I go? What's the right thing?
Thanks, and that's a tremendous help. And even just taking away, probably taking her through the fundamentals of DMBOK, I actually didn't even think of that. But I think that's a great start.
To be honest with you, I did BI. I started BI in the year 2000 as soon as it came out, and I loved it. And when I first saw the DMBOK in 2010, I wrote my exam in 2010. I was blown away by master data. I was blown away by data quality. I was doing data fixes as a BI developer. I was doing all the wrong things, and I was saying, shucks, is there a better way to do this? And when I saw it, I thought, oh, I've been a bit silly, not exposing myself to what's out there and how that works. So now I just wanted to share with you in terms of some of the things we do. And if you are a manager, there's this really nice thing called SFIA, and they define all these levels of progress. So this is your journey and responsibility. You want to go from level 1 to level 7. That's where you've entered at the moment, Richard, where you're going to be following people for a while, but then you want to convert to assisting, applying, and enabling. Okay, so we want to take you through this process. So there's what we call SFIA. It's called Skills for the Internet Age. If you want to go and have a look at it, or Information Age, go and take a look. It's very helpful. So these are the types of things. First of all, we need to describe levels of responsibility. So from following to setting strategy. And Richard, this is almost where you're going to be going, is how do I get you? But I need to go on one of these quick run things. I have to get there as fast as possible. I can't take 5 years to get there. Okay. So this is an example of the levels of delivery. Service delivery, practice definition, practice management, policy executions, then individual contributions, learning about the profession, practicing and mastering your profession. For people managers, this is the path. For leadership, these are the elements. And what we're wanting to do is to say, okay, this is where you enter. This is when you become a professional, you need to be here. This is when you become a specialist, you need to be at this level. This is when you become a thought leader. This is your path on management, okay? And this is your path on executive, okay? Please don't think that these people are better than those people. It's a different path, and we go in a different direction. Okay, so these are what we call personal activities. These are the different breakdowns in terms of where you can be doing the work. I've got a nice Power BI thing where I can show you how to build profiles. And these are some of the areas that we'll be working in. So can you see here, yes, data management, data modeling, database design, engineering, but you've also got things like governance and change management and benefit analysis. So you're going to be putting these things together to, and this is what the important thing is, SFIA just describes the skills, not the roles. Each organization has to define their roles, their jobs. Okay, so they have to take the skills framework and they put it together to create a job profile. And that's what the manager needs to do and the executive need to do that. And you can see here as well, they then also go into generic attributes. These are your softer skills. And I'm just going to take you through this pretty quickly because I'm sort of running out of time. That's the role and the flow of a data scientist. That's how we take the data scientist along. And then we go to these career paths. Okay, so it's really now the way in which you develop is going to be between you and the organization. And after a while, you need to make a decision. Am I going in the right direction with this organization, or do I need to find an alternative organization? You must constantly be asking that in terms of saying, am I getting the growth I need to get? If I'm not, where is the place that I should be? And that's an open discussion about that, and then work with your management to get the appropriate feedback. Okay, so these are generic attributes that are very helpful. Autonomy, planning your own work, scoping your decision-making, influencing, complexity, business skills. There's communication, leadership. So over and above growing that sort of technical level, you also have to grow these generic attributes to make sure you're going in the right direction. Now, what I've got is, this is a Power BI tool that I use, and we build job profiles for companies. So this is for this department, this is the CDO, and they need to be capable of doing these areas: strategic planning, information management, measurement, financial management, organizational capability development, benefits, stakeholder, and we understand and we bring these skills together, and then we bring them a roadmap. Okay, so there's our data strategy, and you can see a data strategy has 3 components: the problems with data, the challenges we have with people. How do we bring our people up to get us to the target state of becoming data-driven? That's just an important message to see on that. There's some nice feedback from Gartner in terms of how to attract people, okay, diversity, and then how to retain people. So we've got to be paying attention to these 2 areas. Once we get them, how do we make sure they remain? And so we need not just a the talent strategy is, first of all, getting the right people, and then it's retaining the right people. And there's things like marketplaces and things that should be set up. Now, what we've got is a set of what we call ROI measurements. These are the types of things that, as a data manager, as an HR learning and development, these are the types of things that we should be measuring. Internal promotion rate, how quickly are you progressing? Employee lifetime value, how long are you going to stay before you change or you leave? What's the net promoter score? Employee distribution, so do we have any gaps or overlaps? Do we have too many people in the BI department or too few people in data quality? How do we distribute that? So here's some elements on growing high potential people, talent costs, performance metrics. These are the types of metrics that we should be keeping. Okay, so what is our return on investment on talent? It's going to be equal to the performance divided by the cost. Okay, now where are we? Where are all of us? So even as professionals, we should be asking the question, is my performance greater than the cost or less than the cost? And is the company getting an ROI or some value out of the work that I'm doing? So as you can see here, this is what I've done for our organization. These are the people that are working for us. This is their thinking styles. These are their strengths. We do a personal maturity assessment, and then we do an SFIA assessment according to the roles, and we then build a map of where these people are and what they need to do. Okay. So here's, for example, a top 10 strength. Now, I'm sure you can see that these strengths are very different. Okay, so let's take some examples. We've got Debbie Diesel here. Is she listening? Debbie has 0 on executing. She's extremely good at relationship building. So can you see she's almost one of the highest people in relationship building. So we have to ask as managers, is the right position to put Debbie in executing and just do, or is it the right place to be? Relationship building. Where is the right place for Debbie to be? Now, I'm hoping you can see here is that diversity means that we want to fill these, almost these rectangles with people with strong skills in all of these different areas. And we want people to understand, but here I can see in my company, we are strongest at relationship building. Okay. And that's not one of my top scores in relationship building. So I need people like Paul and Debbie and Carolyn and those people and Veronica. So you can see Veronica is really good at that as well. She's very good at executing. She's one of the top people at executing, and which is great because as an organization, that's our weakest area. I'm hoping you can see from this that you can analyze your people and how do they actually respond and where is the most appropriate place for them to be. Okay. And these are just things that we go through and we take you through these different scenarios. Okay, so what I want to sort of bring it to the end. One of the community projects that we are building is we call it our data superhero community project. And we're looking at the different skills of the different individuals. And we building these type of cards to be able to show people that Paul is very good at influencing and strategic thinking. There he is. Playing chess or influencing is almost your TED Talk presenter, and these are his strengths. And and then in some cases, who complements him, who needs to support him. Okay, so what we need to do in this situation is make sure that we've got someone executing next to him that's very strong at executing, and then who supports him on thinking, concrete, sequential, people that will follow the recipe. Step 1, step 2, step 3, because Paul can jump around. He loves jumping around. He finds it hard to stay along the path, but that's okay. It's not saying it's wrong. It's just saying that's the way Paul works. And so here we are. We found each one of our different experiences, how we work, and then we take it down to another level, which is the team. We're trying to close all of these areas and have strong people in all the different teams, not just strong people in one area. Okay, so we want to build that diversity and inclusivity in the team. That's our focus. That's what the project's there to do. We're trying to collect data to build these superhero cards for people that will talk to kids or talk to people that want to come in, and they'll help them introduce that situation. Okay. So I've sort of come to the end of my presentation, and this is sort of where I wanted to let Paul take over. And this is some of the questions that we'd like to ask you and get some level of response. If you can respond now, it will be great. If you can't, then we can maybe have an offline discussion. Paul, if you set an offline discussion to talk to some of the people.
Cool.
Would you like to talk through it, or?
Yeah. So what I've got is actually set up a Menti hard.
Okay, great. Okay, good.
So I'll share it now, but I just want to, this slide is important because it just speaks to sort of what you've alluded to in terms of just ending off there with a community project. It just helps us really define some targets and where we're going with it. And it helps us, evaluate our product catalog as well. It helps us speak the language that the audience is looking for and helping them with their pain points. So what's the purpose of the survey, as the title of the slide speaks to, is, what do we as a provider need to understand about a data professional development in terms of KSCA, which is your knowledge, skills, competencies, and attitudes. We sometimes use the word asset vault, rather, where, in terms of our data maturity assessment thinking, we ask a question and then we look for the evidence and it's helpful as a professional to start logging your evidence of work. And for those of you that are running along the path of CDMP, when you get to your master level, that final pass mark where you can apply for your master certificate, DAMA, for instance, will ask you for a portfolio of evidence, a CV, in terms of your 10 years experience. That's the minimum requirement. So it just helps to start building those things. Also, Howard spoke of when you're trying to decide on an initiative or a new job or an opportunity, you can look at your evidence and you can, and that self-evaluation of where you found the most passion or the most, in terms of reward, not just financial, but reward in doing the work. You can, you can highlight those elements, and it can help you decide, firstly, which job you're going to look for or go after. But also, if you are after something, you've got the evidence ready, and you can provide that. So that development of KSCA is critical. So it's speaking to the acquired, and I'm going to just jump the required quickly. So it's, what have I acquired to date, and what do I desire? The path that I desire to be on, and the desired outcomes of my journey. But in there is also this required. Am I paying attention to what's relevant now to what I need to be delivering now? And so, like Howard said, we're in the team together, we're building the training business, and I believe we've done great things to date, but we want to do bigger things, and we want to reach more people and help more people more effectively in our future. So we need to understand those required elements. And so for us, that professional journey is what is required of me right now to help this Modelware machine deliver great value to their stakeholders, or to you, the audience, and people that are looking for this assistance in terms of learning. What is an appropriate data professional benchmark, and how it's been through SFIA, the different levels, the 7 different levels. And as a testimony, everybody, when we put together proposals, we reply to RFPs and things like that. We look at that. We look at the SFIA levels, and we not only in terms of rate, but just where are we sitting, and what are the levels required to deliver this RFP, the requirements on the RFP. And it's been a great source of alignment for us in terms of building team, understanding what resource do we need to bring to the table to deliver well on an initiative. And then obviously the roll-up. What do we need to understand about data team resourcing? That's just the roll-up of what I've said now, defining the team in terms of initiative. So in your business, you need to deliver certain things. We after value. If that's a foreign term to you, please jump on the webinars and hear passionate Howard talk about data value and how to realize the value, how to define it and how to realize it, how to get people aware of it. And if you've been on the fundamentals course, like some of you were last week, perhaps you would hear in chapter 1 about that we've got to be seeing data as an asset. If you don't already, take that to the bank, go read the DMBOK and start looking at that and investigating or studying why it's said that data should be looked at as an asset. And in that sense, this is why understanding the professional, understanding the delivery of our people is so critical to being able to value that asset. And then obviously a clear understanding of what is required so that I can communicate it to the person that works within my team.
And Paul, maybe to compliment you there on, yes, data is an asset, but what you also look at is what is the asset of your data office and the people in your data office. It's not just, I've got fantastic data on the financial stock market and things like that, but what is the value of my data office in being able to produce more data assets, better data assets? What's the office value, not just the data value?
No, well put. Thanks, Howard. Well put. And I was going to say something similar, not quite as well as that, but I was going to talk about that what is required by initiative or use case or value proposition within the business. Your people are going to be the enabler of that thing. Yes, you can have the policies, procedures, which is all good things in terms of those capabilities, defining the standards and all those things is a must. But it's the people that execute on that and drive those things through for you is going to, ultimately exactly what Howard said, help generate that value back or that fruit of your assets. And then, of course, how to monitor and measure it. If we don't know how to measure, shucks, we never know where we are, and we never know how long or where we got to get to. So, or how we're going to get there. And I just made a few points. So we talk about different strategies like offensive strategies or defensive strategies. Do we know the differences? Do we have in terms of like a sports analogy, a playbook for the different positioning on the field? What type of team is appropriate for defensive? What type of team is appropriate for an offensive attack? What type of team is appropriate for a revenue generation use case, as an example, or a business process optimization, or a regulatory issue? You know, and how do we measure that? How do we get that, grow that team and moving in the right direction? And then, of course, you've got that tension also between that desired and required. And so I might be desiring to go over there, but how it needs me going this way, and there's going to cause that tension. And we believe in an amicable, okay, let's reposition. And we talked about, there's one of those points that I brought up on the slide, internal promotion. So how do we have the freedom to move people according to these profiles into the right seats within the bus environment as we need to. So, and that obviously then gives the data executives an idea that those roll-ups to, the upskill development paths, internal marketplace of the business, and that ultimate strategy return on investment. So Howard cut all my time, so I spoke really fast there. If you want a couple of one-on-ones or some more group sessions, let's do it. I'd love to. But if I could just share, if you could just go with it for 5 minutes, everybody. We'll go quickly. We'll go like half a minute per slide on the Menti. I was going to just present quickly, and then I'm going to share my screen. Quickly. There we go. Here's the code for everyone. If you can quickly scan it with your phone or just record it, log into www.menti.com, use the code 8541614. Please. I can see some thumbs up coming there, 2, 3. I'll just give it a couple of, I don't have a timer. Let me check my watch here so I can get it all done in 5 minutes. And perhaps the audience, if you're okay with it, I'll send out a survey like this if you didn't have enough time to give all the input you wanted to, and we can keep collecting some of the data. I think it's also important for Howard, the following sessions will be speaking more on this subject. And as we see things coming through here, it might just adjust, not necessarily the slides, but the angles and what he talks about, what he focuses on, and to help people. All right, cool. So there's 7. It's cool. But I think the join at the top will stay there. Let me keep going. All right, here we go. So the first question is, please just drop comments. It's a comments thing, free text. How do you define a high quality professional? Okay. There's some cool. There's some coming through there. Awesome. Thank you. Next one. Do you measure your data professional ROI? Sorry, how do you? Do you would be yes or no, but how do you? And I had a conversation. I don't know if anybody saw the LinkedIn post. I had a great conversation with somebody the other day who just bluntly said we don't. And so and it just led into other things that we spoke about and how it could be done and all that. And this journey through the next few weeks is going to help us frame those questions or those metrics, I believe, that we need to be considering. Cool. Next one. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Cool. How do you define or redefine a high quality team? Cohesiveness, nice. And I think cohesiveness, nice words. It speaks to what Howard was showing about those strength finders, the balancing of the team, finding the appropriate people in the right spot. We love this question. Many more answers. Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you. And now some, I think it's general questions coming up now, or was it one more? How do you measure your data team ROI? Sorry. I have 3 minutes left of my request. Awesome. Thank you. Good stuff. Thank you. Next up. How do you define a high quality data office? And I've also come across some that don't have the data office, interestingly. And it's just having those discussions of why not, and do you believe they're appropriate? Do you believe there's value in them? We might be the converted on the call, but if that's you, just please let us know. Awesome. Value driven. Nice. Cool. Thank you. How do you measure your talent RIO?
Rio. Oh.
Rio. How do you measure Rio? Oh, should have had a different picture of the man standing in Rio, but no idea. I like that. Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Let me. All right. So yes, I'm just. I think there's 2 left. How can we help you collect, monitor, and measure jobs? JBTDs, jobs to be done. That's just obviously in conversation with the person or the couple of people I spoke to this week. Even if I was asking from a perspective, even if you weren't employing me or you didn't have budget for it at this point, or whatever the case is, what's the kind of things that we could help you with? Because that's going to come through in our training, it's going to come through in our webinars, and it's going to trigger some of those responses there. Job profiling, excellent. Yeah, I think, in terms of professional development within the organization, that job profile is key. Sometimes they're too generic and they're not appropriate to the capability that the person needs to deliver on. Awesome, thank you. Excellent, thank you. All right. How valuable do you perceive certification? As some of you, all of you might know, we are advocates of DAMA, the DMBOK version 2. Okay, it doesn't mean we're not advocates of version 1, but we like the version 2, obviously. And we have certain products that support that learning path. But sometimes, sometimes we've been fortunate enough to facilitate multiple courses through the last 5 years. Many people, students coming through the programs or the courses. And we don't have a clear, because we don't have access to the data, but we don't have a clear sight of everybody that wrote the exam. Some people tell us, and we are always so glad to hear from people when they do. So we're not sure if the actual certificate versus the learning is seen. So awesome responses. Thank you. Cool. And I think the last one, how do you prefer to learn and receive information? Courses, in-person workshops, webinars, one-on-one, putting out an opportunity for advisory, consulting, advisory type work or mentoring type work where as long as you find a provider that has that attitude of mentoring and teaching, even if it's just if it's at an advisory level where the advisory might be a deliverable, but leaving you in a better place, that there's been an awareness, training, communication plan in place to help you take the initiatives into business as usual. Just-in-time engagements. Awesome. Great. Fantastic. Thank you for the participation. That's been brilliant. That was my piece for the day. I went over, sorry, 3 minutes. I owe you all 3 minutes. So
Terrible.
Terrible, man. Thank you for hanging in there and entertaining it. It's been a pleasure to facilitate this part of the discussion. Thank you, Howard. I think it's a valuable, because it's so personal, actually. I know we lift it up to team and we lift it up to organization, executive, but right at the core of it is so personal. Your professional development is personal to you, or the individual, and that's what I love about it. Is those angry walks that you and I did, you could hear some of the frustrations of just not knowing. It's what you don't know. And I actually made a note, in terms of us. I spoke to Monica earlier about it, and I said, we talk about how do we measure our, forgive me, people on the call, our sales and our targets and what we've achieved in terms of number of calls, how many sit-down appointments, how many proposals, and how many people signed up, etc. But I was asked the other day, do I know the value of what I haven't done, or what I haven't sold to? In terms of effort, that gap between effort and nothing happened. What is that potential value? And I think that's some of those angry walks just reminded me of that, where what I can't see, what I don't know, one of your favorite of the 5 questions, Howard, what don't we know?
Yeah.
If you weren't there to help me see that there's this upside to doing this hectic fundamentals exam, there's no perception of what you're losing if you don't do it.
Yeah.
And so hence the mountain. If you can't see that other peak, you don't know that, you can't perceive that distance of the valley and what you have to climb and all of that. And so you probably just don't do it because you don't know it's there. And so that's why I say it's so personal to us. But thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks very much. I really appreciate it. Maybe just a pause and see any questions from someone before we close. I know it's getting close. It's getting late for some of us. For James, it's about time for another cup of coffee. But for anybody else, are there any questions before we go? If you'd like me to deal with some of the issues and talk about them next week, please leave a message and I'll make sure I get there. There's Jess. Jess, long time no chat. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thanks, Howard. Hi, everyone. I was wondering if hopefully I can make the next ones, but if we could also speak about developing your career from a domain or industry vertical perspective as well. Or we can bring that in a little bit. Yeah, that's okay.
A thought leader in that domain?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
Is it when you're looking at that, is that somewhere that you'd want to become like a thought leader in data in that domain? So maybe things like HR analytics or retail analytics. What is it? Is it that type of thing where you want to be a data thought leader?
Yes, exactly. So working in, like, say, the health industry and working with health-related data and like specifics around that context. Yeah. Okay,
fantastic. I'll certainly do that. Jess, what's really helped me is get involved in the sort of working groups or the ISO groups. So as an example, in the health industry, they are very dedicated to things like HIPAA and regulations within that industry. If you can find a way of connecting to those things, it will be phenomenal how much you learn.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Howard. Thanks, Paul.
What industry, if you can tell me the industry, then I could probably do some investigation on the type of communities you could join.
It is mainly health that I'm interested in. So at the moment, I'm exposed to different industry verticals, but I'd like to maybe focus in on health and wellness.
Right.
Supply chain is also another.
Ah,
so I have a lot of interests, Howard.
Okay.
But, so part of my thing is trying to also narrow that down. But my training and background is actually in health.
Okay. So it's things like HL7 or some of the common data models when they build some of the common data models for health data exchange. That's I'll share some of that with you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Fantastic. Anybody else? Okay, great. Guys, have a wonderful evening. It was really nice. Magella, nice to see you again. Lovely to spend time. Hamdi, Wafa, Simon, and James, everyone, fantastic. Have a wonderful evening. James, have a wonderful day. Enjoy.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, everybody. Bye.